Alright, this is Class 7. Today's date is March 29th.
And I'm mad.
And Jeremiah's angry.
Alright.
Why are you mad? No one's here?
Okay, yeah, that too. No,
Because none of us completed it.
that's right.
Wow.
Okay, now, I wrote down some questions that me and John kind of had for y'all when we were looking over homework. Okay? Is a bank teller an account?
No.
Then why was bank teller inheriting from account? Why was menu inheriting from account? Is a menu an account?
No.
No. Remember, it's an is a relationship. If you can literally in words say a spy is a person, a offshore account is a account, then okay, that is a candidate for inheritance. Otherwise, it's probably some other type of relationship.
So would you put the require in the main for both of them? Like, would you need to put require account in the main, or that would be in there? That's what you just said.
Okay, well, you understand the require statements have nothing to do with inheritance.
Yeah, it's just pulling, like, cause some of these methods or things are referred to in the account class.
Right, and if the methods are referred to, that's okay, you don't have to require the file. If you actually see the name of the class anywhere, then you have to include the require. And it'll tell you, it'll say unidentified constant, whatever, and you'll know, God, I need to require this file. Yeah. So that's why when you do inheritance, you know, you have to provide the class name, which would have been account in this example.
I inherited though, I figured it.
You did.
That's all you can see it, don't you?
Inheritance is not required at all for the solution, for the accounts application. In fact, it's probably, if you find yourself using inheritance, you probably did it wrong. So, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, it's true. Alright, puts. What does puts mean?
Put the string.
Put string. Is it a method or is it an object?
I think it's a method.
It's a method, right? It's a function that executes. So we don't do this, do we? We don't say puts dot anything, do we? Because that would imply that puts is an object, right? We would be calling method X on puts, and that doesn't make any sense. Plural, this is something we saw a lot of in several people's homework. So we wanted to take a second to talk about this one. And that is plural versus singular class names. In a lot of people's homework, we didn't just see like account. Some people, instead of having an account class, had an accounts class. Okay? Now, there are scenarios where you would want an accounts class. There are scenarios where you would want an account class. Who can tell me the difference?
Accounts would be when you have a bunch of already predetermined like accounts of belonging to.
I wouldn't say predetermined accounts. What I would say though is that an accounts is a collection of accounts. Okay? This guy would be probably either wrapping around some kind of list structure or inheriting from some kind of list structure, and would be specific to a list of objects of this class. So you can have an accounts class, just make sure that accounts doesn't have a first name or an owner name or something like that, because you're saying a single instance of accounts has a balance. A single instance of accounts is a group of accounts, right? So there is a difference. Now, programmatically, you could still make it work with whatever name you want. We could call this blue jigsaw pug, and it would work as an account. I like that word today.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Is that a book?
No, it's not, but it's fun, and I'm going to keep using it.
Sounds like a pub
So-
named Blue Jigsaw.
That's right. So I forgot where I was going now. But okay, yeah, blue jigsaw pug. We could have called this blue jigsaw pug, and the code would run fine. People would just be confused by what you meant when you were referring to it, right?
Yeah.
They would, what the hell is a blue jigsaw pug class? And why does it have an owner name? Is it a monster? I don't. Whatever. You know, if someone sees accounts, and more confusingly, if they saw an array of accounts instead of an array of accounts, that's like saying you have a collection of collections of accounts. And that's just mind-bending, you know? But there are cases where you would want to do something like that. This isn't one of those cases, okay? When we were saying, okay, you want to manage a list of accounts, what we intended was that for somewhere in your code, you had this. You had an instance variable called accounts that was equal to an array. And inside this array would go many of these guys.
And the main would contain instances of that. Instances.
And what would?
Instances of accounts or account.
The array would, yes. Mm-hmm.
Would you put that just in the general, maybe under initialize or something?
You talk about this specific line?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably put that in, for instance, in our bank teller class. The bank teller had a list of accounts, right? It didn't inherit from an account. It has a list of accounts, okay? It uses a list of accounts, all right? That's a dependency relationship, okay? So in its initializer, I probably would call this. Okay, I'm almost off my soapbox. Arrays. Who can tell me what an array is?
Is a
Data structure of
An array?
collection
I like
of
data
objects.
structure. Collection of objects. Okay, both of those are right. Why didn't we use them?
I tried using
I didn't
mine
get that
before.
Okay.
um,
Do it. Is the reason y'all didn't use them because you didn't know how to use them, or?
Yes, I'll go with that.
Well, I'm being serious. Is it because you didn't know how, or is it because you didn't get that far?
I didn't get to that point.
To the latter.
Okay. All right. Then I won't go back over arrays yet.
How do you? So when I wanted to load the accounts and then let the user select from that list,
Okay.
wouldn't the method you write depend? I couldn't translate how you write a method that depends on something that's not always the same. Like they could have 6 accounts, or they could have
20
1
accounts. Or they can have no accounts. Right.
So how do you? I didn't know how to write a method that would.
You do know how. It's with loops.
That's what I.
So if you write the loop structure to where it outputs something for every account, and there are no accounts, it's just not going to run the loop, right? It'll be an empty list of accounts.
For each do I.
Well, you could use a for loop, you could use an each call, or whatever the case may be. But some type of loop structure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, like you just said, if accounts is an array and it's empty, this puts account dot description, it never runs.
Okay, good, I wrote that.
All right.
So that's close.
I just never,
You didn't have an account to make it run?
I didn't get that far, but I also never made the accounts array at the very beginning, but. Not saying I would have gone back and done it. I probably would have, but I just didn't get that far.
Well, it's okay if your application started with no accounts. You were supposed to make the ability to add accounts, right? So it's okay if it started with none. You didn't have to preload. We didn't make that a requirement to start with some accounts. You know, I did it in my application because I like seeing seed data. You know, some dummy data when I'm testing my applications. They're not required.
I had a lot of trouble with the transfer one also.
That one I intended to be the trickiest.
And kind of,
Dirty bastard.
yeah, transfer was the most complicated for me.
Did you get the rest of them?
I mean, I never tried to run it because I put another while or another,
I think everyone did that.
yeah, another, I still don't see why you only need one, but that's okay.
It's because of it. John showed me it. It's basically just encapsulation. Cause like he basically like created like the main code in like the run function or whatever, and then like all the other functions were like menus of like things to call.
Yep.
Or
There's several different ways to write this application. Back after the homework and all that kind of stuff, we'll probably show you 2, maybe 3 ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Probably 2.
Are you gonna show yours, right?
Yeah, I'll show one.
Like when I did, like
I might write one more way of doing it.
I had a method called print accounts menu. So whenever you,
Okay, that's a good start.
So that was after my other.
Oh,
So I had first one that was the main menu,
Yeah.
which I call print menu, I guess. And then after you, I guess, load your accounts, then it brings up another menu called load accounts.
well, why don't we do this? Why don't I send you my code and we run it on the projector? That way they can see how it's supposed to kind of
You wanna
function.
go through your stuff.
Okay. Let
Do
me.
you have HDMI?
No.
No, never mind. We can't record it.
I think.
See, I know you were showing me how the cursor goes, and I know you were showing Nick too how the cursor goes and comes back around. And I guess we're gonna see when he runs it, but you only need that one case because you're telling it to go straight into. See, I've made it say gets load account menu.
If you had, what I saw a couple of y'all do was this. You had a while loop while running, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then inside of that, you had another while loop
Oh, dang.
while running. Now, you didn't have it this explicit, but eventually somewhere in this code here, you called a method or got to this point of execution where you were now in this while loop. Well, until this running changed to false, you will never leave this loop. So you will never return back up here.
So this is not necessarily a bad case. It's not required though, and you have to be really cautious about making sure you exit all of your loops.
that probably would have happened to me.
There is one
Yeah,
risk you
I'm
run
sure
into
you
with
guys
this is if this were a big application, you could run into a Stack Overflow issue where you get so deep and no memory is ever released. That's dangerous and it hurts and it's hard to debug. But yeah, anyway.
So sometimes when I mess something up, it would say, let's see, undefined method, deposit details, and then it would come down and say, gets my gets load account menu from there, and then it would say I had a bank error. I had a run error, which was 15 over. In the bank. I'll change it up a little bit. It was down here a little bit. So it was saying that my run was messed up.
Well, no, it's telling you that deposit
Details.
is undefined, right?
So that was the first thing, right? You start there, and then I was trying to work my way down.
Yeah, so this is the stack trace. so this is what called each thing, basically. So,
And that's way up there. I've gone way past that now, but
oh, you,
yeah, I've changed some stuff.
Changed some stuff.
Yeah, this is up the ways. Change names.
so do you have a method called deposit details?
I have a withdrawal. Well, I was starting to withdraw, and that's when I got messed up with my name. Anyway, so.
Yeah, so that's what it's telling you. You're calling a method that doesn't exist, right?
Right. But I guess what I was bringing up was the fact that it also referenced the run method, right?
Yeah, so this is like, okay, let's take a look at this. And
Again,
bank teller, line 15. That's in our run method here, right?
yeah, but these
Yeah, but you're still,
okay.
so line 15,
Where did you
probably
go?
called gets load account in here, right?
Mhm.
Okay, that is where? It's in bank, right?
Where did I put it?
I'm lost.
I know.
I'm lost in your code here.
Yeah. I had gets load account menu,
Okay,
and then it
so,
runs this.
so our main loop,
Mhm.
or our main class, called into this class, right?
Yes.
That's what this is telling you. Our main class called into,
See, when it says main, I wasn't even running main. That's why. That's why I was. What the hell are you talking about, buddy?
Oh God.
so you weren't running this at all.
No.
You were just running bank teller.
Yes. I was just
Do
starting.
you always bring up files to the terminal?
Because it was.
I don't always. It's just when
And it was helpful
that was
text.
quicker for me because he's got so many windows open.
Whatever.
All right, so this is what mine looked like.
Like I said, this is probably last night at 7 o'clock or something. But I've gone. I was just
So,
making a point to show you that.
Can you see that? Let me
We'll,
turn the
we'll
light.
go over the
Okay.
stack trace in more detail.
Alright, so I don't remember if I left this in a working state or not. I think I did, but so I started the application off with just 2 accounts in it. And so if I hit 5 here, I can list out my accounts, right? And there they are up there. So I have an account number and the name and some money. Yeah, John's doing really, really good.
Make that full screen, it'll be opaque.
There we go. Thank you. So those are all the accounts we have in the system right now. Now these index numbers, those are what I go by to like load an account or something like that. So if I want to, let's say, load an account, it's going to ask me which one do I want to load. Well, maybe I don't want to load either of them, so I'll just do 0 to go back. Takes you back to the main menu. So we have some basic menu navigation going. Let's say I want to load my account. So I'm the first one. Okay, what do I want to do? I'm going to deposit, and I'm gonna deposit 500. All right, well now if I list the accounts, I've got 100,500. Okay, and it persists that way, so it's always that way. If I want to transfer money from one account to another, that's 4. I'm going to transfer money from John, so I'm going to pick him as my source account. I'll be the destination account. And I'm going to transfer, $200,000.
Classic.
We're ruined, Mortimer.
Okay, so now I've got all of the monies.
So that's what you're referring to, John, is that he always comes back to that one simple account. Run. I was looking at it like that one simple
Yeah.
while statement.
This version of the application that I wrote has one loop, one infinite loop, one while statement.
Okay.
How do you do the menu for if you go to any of the other menus really?
They don't actually have menus. He has definitions that tell what each menu to do. Am I saying it right?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Scroll up a little bit. The one where you so where you entered your selection one and it brought up deposit, withdrawal, or cancel.
Oh, okay. So loading an account.
That's not a separate menu?
It is, but I don't need a separate loop to show it. So like, I want to load John's account. I can.
The reason why is because he's doing a gets here, right? He's prompted for user input. So execution pauses at this point in the application.
Yeah.
Right?
Just because it's paused doesn't mean the loop has made a full loop.
Yeah, but maybe I'm not understanding. I think I'm just not getting the concept of.
Don't worry, buddy. I'm with you.
Because it's asking you for a number, and how does it know what number equates to what method? Without some sort of.
You did an if statement, correct? Then.
Well,
If-
I had a separate conditional check for did they enter 1 here, did they enter 2 here, did they enter 0 here. It could be a switch statement, it could be a if else, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter, but the point is like John was saying, you pause for user input here by using gets. I could take in, okay, a good example is the money transfer. How many times did I pause for input after initiating the money transfer? 3 times. Choose the source account, choose the destination account, enter the amount. Okay? I paused execution 3 times within the same loop. It wasn't still looping, it was paused. And then went down a little further and then it was paused. I gave it some information and it went down a little further and then paused. Then it totaled up the calculation and restarted the loop, which sent me back to the main menu. Okay?
I hear you telling me how it's done, but the execution of it on our end, or I can only speak for myself on my end, is I just hear 75 lines of codes of gets this, if this, then that, so and so, blah, blah, blah. And I say it like that, meaning, holy crap, how do I make that work? Like, I can see it working, great, and it's just, what I'm saying is, putting it down on paper, keyboard,
It's tougher.
yeah.
It's always tougher. That never stops being tougher. No, we have that problem all the time. And with our product, for instance, we have to sit down every day and sometimes think about problems that no one else has really tried to tackle before. That's what happens when you have a product that's kind of at the edge of the marketplace. You know, we have a very new product in a very new space, and so we're trying to solve problems people haven't dealt with. And so you sit here going, okay, well, I know it needs to happen. I need to get this message from here to here. Ooh, how do you do that? You know, and we'll have discussions for a long time about the best way to do it.
Okay. I started writing down stuff on paper today. Obviously, I couldn't get it to work, but I wrote it down on paper, trying to just visualize it in my head so that when I got back to the computer.
You see, this is what I think a lot of people are getting hung up in is this, okay? Oh, well, we have this run loop, okay? It's
So-
circling, it's circling, it's circling, okay? Oh, they chose this option, let's go over here. Oh, they chose this option, let's go over here. And oh, they chose this option, let's go over here. Oh, they chose this option. And these are different modules that run different sections of code. Okay, and this is your prime loop. Alright? The thing is, I think everybody's trying to visualize these graphs on, okay, if they go this way, this needs to happen, then because that happened, this needs to happen, then because this happened, this needs to happen. Don't do that. Okay? I didn't do that. There was not at one point when I was writing this out. You don't have to do that to solve this problem. Okay? You're not trying to pick apart the whole graph at once. Okay? Let's take a decision tree, for example. Okay, do y'all know what I mean by a decision tree? This is kind of a decision tree. Alright? So you have a branch that comes in, and you make a decision. Based on that decision, you go one direction or another. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here, same thing here, you know, and this thing can get crazy. Okay? And then some of these might take you back to the start, some might end the program. We don't come here and model these when we write applications. What we do is we go, okay, in order to accomplish this job, I need to write this interaction. So I write that interaction, and maybe I put it in a method. Well, then maybe I write this interaction, and I put it in a method. Maybe I write this one, okay? And then before you know it, you've plugged all these things into one another. But all you had to do is focus on one step at a time. Whether you started from this end or started from the bottom up, that doesn't matter. In this case, you'd probably want to start from the main menu, which would be that right there, you know. But what would be your first step in solving a problem like this? Printing the main menu, right? Okay, so as long as you print the main menu, you get that working, what's the next thing you should probably do? Maybe get the thing to where it can close. Okay, maybe you start there. So, what did y'all do for close? Did y'all make a close? Did y'all make an exit function?
I did on both of my menus.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. You saw I did on a few of them. I made backs, not exits, but yeah.
No, I like it, but yeah.
So, the point I'm trying to make though is that when you solve one piece and you move on to the next branch to say, okay, well this is list all accounts. What do I have to do here? Solve that problem there. Then okay, what's the next thing I need to do here? You know, solve it a piece at a time and test that piece. If you can't write it a piece at a time and test the pieces as you go, you're going to have a hard time as a programmer, because I tell you what, we test a lot more often than, oh, I think the application's done, let's crank it up.
I think that actually like makes a lot more sense, because that's what I've been doing so far, is just writing the whole thing and then just hoping that the whole thing works.
And then you end up with a problem somewhere, you're not sure where the problem is, and it becomes
You end
this,
up with multiple problems.
it becomes this
Touch
big,
that one.
and when you don't do this and you don't get the feedback, you're more likely for this type of directed graph to come out in your code. In some of your homework, we could see, I could see that, you know, like, okay, they literally went through this whole decision graph, and because I could see embedded cases inside embedded cases inside embedded cases and back on out and stuff like that. And so it came through, the thought process did, you know. And you don't have to do that with code. You can write one piece at a time, test that piece to make sure it works.
That sounds a lot smarter.
It just takes practice. So,
That's why I did mine through the bank teller app, because I could test the bank teller.
every single one of these every single one of these functions, I wrote one at a time. And like for instance, load account, I didn't write it in one go and then test it. I wrote load account, made sure that when I hit the number 1, it tried to go somewhere to some method called load account. I printed out some message saying, okay, this is going to run code to load the account. Then I made my menu for what that's going to look like. Okay, what do I have to put here? Oh, well, I have to put some code that lists the accounts and lists them select one. Well, okay, let me make sure that when it lists the accounts and I enter my selection, that it got the index that I wanted it to get. Test it, okay, it worked. Well, now let me take that and ask them the next question. Okay, well, let me write and test deposit. Okay, well, now let me write and test withdrawal. I did those one step at a time, constantly write, run, write, run, write, run, back and forth, back and forth. Okay?
Make sure there's no errors in
Make sure there's no errors in between. Because what you get then is as you're writing these things and you're testing them to make sure they work, you can start refactoring some of this bulky code that's 500 lines, that's 600 lines, and reuse functions. One of the biggest ones you can reuse that's easy to write is one that you'll have to use over and over and over, which is list the accounts. You have to write it here to list out the accounts, right? But the exact same code has to be written to run, to let them choose an account for load account and for money transfers. So why not wrap that code up in a function? Now it's in one place instead of 3, and just call that method. Kind of see?
I'll spend on the function. I know the method, but on the function.
On the method. I'll call it a method. I said function.
So if you have 2 different functions that do the exact same thing, there's no point in having 2 separate functions. You can just put them together into one.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
If you have 2 functions that do the exact same thing, there's no point in having just 2 separate ones. You just put them
As
together.
long as they have the exact same signature, like they return the same thing, they take in the same thing, and they execute the same code, yeah, they're equivalent. The name's just different. So eliminate one, call that method from everywhere else in your code, and you've refactored. That's what we call code refactoring.
Okay.
So how, when you wrote the code for choosing an account, you wrote something to the effect of they select this, do this, right? Or is that not how you do it? Like if they enter 1, do that.
No.
Okay.
For listing accounts?
Yeah, so you listed the accounts and you asked for their selection. And
I
they-
feel like a big hiccup is how do I tell what account was selected? Is that what the question is you're trying to ask?
Yeah, like what if there were 6 accounts? How does your code say?
You're asking me, did I write 6 if statements?
Yes. Or like
20 if
25
statements?
if statements.
Yeah.
Like how do you
Or a
determine-
million.
Yeah.
No, I didn't write any if statements.
You probably like encapsulated.
There's no conditional check there.
And yes,
No if statements, no switch statements, nothing.
that's the mystery to me.
Okay. So we talked about arrays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our accounts is an array. This guy. Let's imagine that I've got 3 accounts in it. I'm not gonna write that out, but use your noodle. Alright? So, and I'm also not gonna keep writing out accounts. This is getting old. So I'm just gonna say at A. That looks great on the board,
Not
doesn't
confusing.
it? Not confusing at all. I'll say ACC. Okay. Alright. That's our list of accounts. That's this guy. Alright? If I want the first item in that array, how do I get it? How do I get it out? We talked about this.
You can use a function, a method, like an array method.
We could use a method like at or something like that, but you don't remember when we talked about this? Where you could say, okay, give me 0.
Oh, you call you call
yeah.
the place.
Because it's 0 indexed, right?
Yeah, index,
so
index,
that gives me the first one. Okay, if I wanted the we said we had 3 in here, how would I get the last one?
Last, or sorry,
Without the method last.
3, 2,
2, right? Okay, well if I had a list of 1, 2, 3 accounts,
0, ...
no, it'd be 1, 2, and 3 here, right? And let's say I wanted the first one, I selected 1, right? What is 1 to this? Okay, so if I said selection
Oh, it's the second.
equals gets, and I'm not gonna write the rest of that out. That prompts the user for input, right? Well, I turn this to an integer. Okay. Isn't the one they asked for always going to be selection -1? No if statement there. They could have a million of them.
And we're minusing 1 because of the 0 index.
Yep. Because I'm printing it out as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. You know?
The only thing you might do there is make sure they entered a valid number.
Yeah.
Because if there were only 3 accounts in there and they entered 5, you're going to try to get the account at index 4, which doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. It'll return you nil.
You would write this in
Yeah, but
your load accounts menu?
Do I?
You would write this in your load accounts menu method?
I would write this particular bit wherever I was prompting the user for input on their chosen account.
So you would write a new method like choose account.
Maybe.
No.
Well, no, I'm serious. Maybe.
Well, how did you, John? You were saying though, how do you do that without a conditional, a valid number?
In Ruby, you don't really have to worry about it.
Oh.
Most languages you do. Now, if you're about to call methods on it, then yeah, you gotta worry about it sometimes. But Ruby even lets you do something goofy. I can, this makes a lot of programmers' eyes bug out. I can say this. Give me item -1, and it starts iterating in reverse down the list. So that would actually return me the last item in the list without me having to know how many there were.
I saw that on Google.
Yeah.
Damn, that would, yeah.
That's handy because in most languages, you have to know the size of the array to ask for the last item. Because it's always going to be the size of the array -1.
So you can just call for it with the numeric thing when you call for something in an array. Like that sounds a lot easier than what I've been doing because I've been trying to do it with like methods.
Well, methods work the same way. This is a method, it's just a funny syntax for it. So you could say acc.at. You know, I believe isn't that one of the methods that you can use for searching? So that works just the same way. You'd say at selection -1.
Okay. I'm sure calling stuff numerically though will get tricky when you have like a giant array. If you don't know exactly where something is.
Well, that menu is printed dynamically based on the contents of that array. So if you write it correctly, you're never going to have the case you just mentioned really show up.
Yeah.
Because these numbers, it's just iterating through the array here, right? So it assigns that number sequentially. So then when the user goes back and enters whatever, it could be 100. That's going to map back to the number that was printed out.
Okay, so let's, for example, just to demonstrate that, I don't mind you seeing my main file because there's nothing of value in it. So these are the seed accounts that I told you about that I started with, just for kicks. Let's. That's a lot of Jeremiah and John's. But I could choose 40 if I wanted to load account 40. So everybody sees account 40 there? John? Haha, that's descriptive. So I'm going to choose 40. I want to withdraw all of the monies again. See? So because the list is dynamically generated and I can dynamically look through the array based on the index that they choose, I don't have massive, monstrous statements or conditionals in my code to account for any given possibility. This is where loops come in handy, because you can rerun the same line of code 56 times to print out 56 different account descriptions with their index. Make sense? Everybody ready to quit? Screw it, I hate this.
No.
Alright, so we were thinking about letting y'all keep working on that one without showing you the solution today, and seeing how far you get. How long do we want to extend that to?
At least Thursday, but maybe till next Tuesday.
Maybe until next Tuesday, because I realized it was kind of tough going over the weekend too, with the holidays and whatnot. A lot of people had a lot of stuff going on. So we're gonna give you something else too. Don't think you're getting off easy. You're gonna get another assignment as well, but it's gonna be an easy one. We're gonna do something a little bit different, a little more fun today, which is we're gonna go over HTML and CSS a little bit, and y'all will write your first web page. So that's. Do you have a question? Okay, thought you did. I'm sorry. So that will be. We're basically gonna have a really small lecture today, and we're gonna do a lot of exercises. And I figured we'd be spending quite a bit of time on the account example, and we did. So do you want to go ahead and us do the book and library example, and then we'll do the HTML stuff later? Okay. So what I've done is me and John sat in here earlier, and we thought up another example that we want y'all to try to do here in class as a group. It's not as hard as the account example, but it uses some of the same principles, but there's no infinite looping menu system. It's other stuff, collection management, that kind of thing. So this is version 1 of this guy, okay? We might do a couple of different versions of this, but we'll only do version 1 today. So if you look up here, we have a couple of UML diagrams. Y'all remember us talking about UML in the last class. Hold on, let me get rid of this. This isn't part of it either.
Unified
Close.
modeling
Yes, yes,
language.
yes. Okay. This is a very simple example. It has 2 classes in it, and then you have your main runner file. Okay. So you'll have a book class and a library class. All right. Does library inherit from book? No. Good. Library is not a book, is it? what is a library to books?
It's a place where lots of books are.
It's a place where a library has books. Okay. So the library is not made up of books. A library does not inherit from a book. Okay. It has a lot of books. Alright? So what are the attributes that a book has in this example?
Title, and the author, and if it's checked out or not.
And if it's checked out or not. Checked out is a Boolean flag, so it's going to be true or false, right? Okay? What actions can a book take? What methods does it have?
Have a new title.
It can what?
It can be checked in or checked out. It can have a new title.
You can't have a new title.
Oh, it doesn't say so, sorry.
No, it says get title.
You can check it in or check it out,
You can check it in, you can check it out.
and then what?
Request the title or the author.
You can request the title, you can request the author.
See if
Okay.
it's available.
You can see if it's available. So, check in, check out, and available. Do we kind of see how they work? If you call check in on a book, what's it going to do to this checked out flag?
Return. It's gonna be the opposite because you're checking it in.
I'm checking it in, so what is it going to do to this flag?
Make it false.
Okay, right, because it's not checked out, right? If I'm checking out the book, if I call check out on the book, what's it going to do to the flag? It's going to say it's true. When do I know if it's available or not?
When it's checked in,
If it's false.
if checked in,
If checked out
is
is
false.
Right, okay. So, looking over at library now, what attributes does a library have?
Books. An
Okay.
array of books.
It's got an array of books, okay? What actions can you take on a library?
Find a book.
I can find a book. How do I find a book?
Search the
By the
array.
For the title.
The title and the author.
So, find book is a method that I'll call in a library that takes in the title of a book, and if it finds it in the array, will return me the book. Okay? So we're searching by title, by book title. Alright? What about this one?
You can add a new book to the library.
I can add a new book that takes in a book as a parameter, correct? Okay. Likewise, I can remove a book from the library. What do you think this one does? Get book list.
Show you a list of books in the current library.
It turns you as an array with strings in it of book titles.
Okay. Yep. What I did here was I wrote a method 2_s. Y'all remember seeing that? That's toString, right? It gives you a string representation of an object, correct? You're going to fill in a toString method on book. And what I want it to do is I want it to show the title of the book here, a space and a colon, and then the author on this side. Okay? So, when you call this, you're going to get it back an array of strings, all with this. Okay? That's what we want to happen. Available books, what do you think that does?
So it's not checked out.
Okay? It returns you the same thing, but only for the books that are not checked out. And checked out books does the same thing, it shows you which books are checked out. Okay? So,
Have at it.
and you're not allowed to ask for help for at least 20 more minutes.
Even from each other.
Okay, y'all can ask each other